The size of your database is going to determine your success as a realtor, and beyond size, it's the quality. So you can have a lot of people in there that are terrible, and that doesn't count. We want to get quality people in there. So Q2, if any of you progress far enough into your business that you can think about exiting the business and you want to sell your business to another agent, which some agents do, how would your business have value? The only way your business has any value whatsoever is the quality and quantity of your database combined with one other thing, systems. So it's your quality and quantity of your database plus the systems you have that you're working your database with, which creates a value should you ever want to sell or exit the business. Most speaker that I saw years ago, if you ever get a chance to see him, he's a great speaker, Charlie Tremendous Jones. And Charlie Tremendous Jones said this. He said, the only difference between where you are today and where you're going to be 5 years from now is the people you meet and the books that you read. And so really what defines us as realtors and our success level is our what? Our relationships. That's really what defines us. Now, what's happening in our industry is that there's a lot of people reaching out for silver bullets. The silver bullet is what in our industry right now? Online leads. Everybody's looking at the online leads as being what's going to solve all my problems. It's going to give me this golden goose, and all I got to do is plug into enough online lead generation. It's going to solve every problem I've ever had in my life. Do you think that's true? No. Here's the reality with online leads. Study done by Inman News is that of all the online leads that are received, only about 3% close. So that means you got to grind through 100 online leads to get to 3 closed deals. Now here's the reality with online leads over the last 5 years, because I meet with these guys. I meet with Zillow, I meet with Realtor.com, and I see all the numbers. 5 years ago, there was 5 million online leads created and about 5 million transactions closed in the industry across the country. 5 million leads, about 1 lead per closing. So when you bought a lead back then, it was a pretty good lead. That was probably worth it back then. Today, what do you think that lead count is? Last year, 77 million was the lead count. How many leads were created? And how many leads and how many closings did we have as an industry? About the same number, about 5.3 million. So that means what? There's a massive amount of leads being generated and what? Sold to realtors at $80 a pop, $60 a pop, $120 a pop. So who's getting rich here? Zillow. Zillow and Realtor.com and Homes.com are the ones that are getting rich. Google, Facebook, they're all getting in the lead generation game now. So when we buy those leads for $80 to $100 a pop, you got to think about that. We have to grind through 100 to get to 3 closed deals. That's $80 a lead to get to the 3 closed deals. Does that make sense? It's a terrible investment for you as a realtor. Not only that, when you look at the numbers behind it, don't forget you have time invested in every one of those leads you're touching. Does that make sense? So every one of the 100 you have to touch, qualify, quantify before you get to the 3 closed deals. What's the numbers behind sphere of influence, working your database, people that know, like, and trust you? 65%, and this is not Realtor.com, but the National Association of Realtors study, 65% of the leads that are referred to you will turn into a closing. 65%, not 3%, 65%. So if we have a choice on where we're going to invest our time, our effort, our money, our marketing, where should it be? Referrals, CRM. It's exactly what every smart business does in America, except for the real estate industry, right? So we have got to embrace and really immerse ourselves in this thought process is that my database is what drives my business. And my business is a reflection of my database. When my business is suffering, it's probably because I'm not working my database. Has anybody experienced that? All of us, right? So how are we going to change that? One way is to start looking at what we're going to do to invest in it, how we're going to grow it, how we're going to make contact with people. And so that's what this class is really all about. So let's just jump in. We're going to look at a couple of people that you know, people that are already connected with you. Are you reaching out and having this conversation with them about being a part of a database? So I had an agent come to me, Judy, came to work for me. She says, I got 1,200 people that I'm going to add to my database. I said, that's great, 1,200. You know 1,200 people? She says, well, it's my Chamber of Commerce, you know, it's my church groups. And so she thought that that was a database. Is that a true sphere of influence? No, because it's not people that know, like, and trust you. So I've given you a whole list of people that may know, like, and trust you. That's 60 different groups where you could pull people from, people in your family, of course, Just a whole list of people that you could pull from. Social media connections, names of your spouse, very close friends, names of your children's friends, parents, on and on and on it goes. So, but here's one simple thing that you can all do, is to print all your lists out. So you all have a Facebook friends list, right? What if you printed that out and looked at those people and highlighted, are these people that know, like, and trust me? And I get that a lot of people on your Facebook friends list aren't people that know, like, and trust you, but there's going to be a good group that are. Your Instagram friends list, the people in your phone. I had one team that I was coaching, and they had 1,500 people in their phone, and I asked, how many people are in your database? About 500. Is that a disconnect? So what you need to do is print all your lists from all your sources and start to build your database. Start looking at every person that could possibly be added to your sphere, because your business is a reflection of your database. If you're not doing that, you're missing an opportunity. Maybe there's people in there that would have referred to you, but you haven't made contact with them. Once you built that list, now it's time to make some calls. And this is what I'm going to be challenging you with, is making calls to clients this week. And so let's look at the phone scripts at the back of this download real quickly, or this form. So the phone script's real simple. I'm not going to read them all, but let's look at the second one down. Hey, good afternoon. This is Jim Remley. How are you guys doing today? Casual conversation. Quick question. Can I send you some spam emails? Now, that's a joke. It's meant to be funny. We want them to kind of laugh with you, because these are people that already know, like, and trust you. If they say yes, and you can say, just kidding, of course. I'm putting together a small group of people to share real estate market information, design trends, housing tips with, things I think would be interesting for people that I know. Would it be okay if I add you to my group? That language, would it be okay, is super important. People say yes to would it be okay. They don't say yes to would you like. So the languaging is important. Would it be okay if I add you to my group? What if you didn't do that? What if you didn't use permission-based marketing, and you took all your lists that you have and you simply dumped the people that you think know, like, and trust you into your top producer database, into your referral maker database, and just started blasting them with emails, and started blasting them with texts, and started blasting them on social media? Have you gained their permission? The answer is no. And so what might they look at that like? They might look at it like spam, a true spam, because you didn't ask for permission. You have to ask their permission, and then they'll know it's coming. They'll appreciate that you've taken the time to ask for them for their permission. Here's another one, the third one down. Hey, good morning. Jim Remley here. How are you? Casual conversation. Quick question. I know you're busy, but would it be okay if I add you to a small group of people I'm putting together to share real estate trends, statistics, home improvement ideas, and the hottest buys in the market? Who's going to say no to that? Pretty much no one. If they already know, like, and trust you, they're probably going to say yes, right? Now, you can make this easier on yourself with text scripts. You can simply text it. I know we're in a text generation now. So we look at the text scripts. Question: putting together a small group to share real estate trends, cool housing projects, pictures of amazing houses, and just cool real estate stuff. No selling, just sharing. Can I put you down? What do you think most people are going to say? By text, they're going to say yes. As soon as they've said yes, now you've gotten their permission. The third one down. You want to see the coolest listings on the market? I just included it in my new real estate group email. Can I add you to the group? Now, there's a note on this next page, which I think is important. A lot of people are starting to do this. I just saw Mandy Martin just started doing it, which is brilliant. That's on the pro tip, which is a closed Facebook group. What's a closed Facebook group? Closed Facebook group is simply, you create a group. It's not open to the public. They have to be invited in to come into this closed group. They can ask to be let in, but it's a closed group. Now you post things, could be architecture, could be cool housing tips, could be gadgets, could be listings, whatever you want. But the idea is to focus it around a niche that you're in control of. It could be, for instance, if you like horse properties, if you like smart homes, if you just want to focus on Jackson County real estate, whatever, but it's a niche that might attract people. The closed group Facebook idea is really generating steam. A lot of top producing agents have created closed Facebook groups. It's free, doesn't cost anything. Something to take a look at. Some emails here too on the next page. Let's go to the last one. The last email on this page. One of the things I love about being a real estate agent is seeing amazing homes, discovering amazing architecture and vintage styles, and seeing innovative new technology being applied to construction and smart housing. I thought it'd be fun to share what I find in the market with my friends and clients. Would it be okay if I add you to my group? So simple things on creating a database if you don't already have one. Hopefully most of you have one, but if you're starting out, this is some things to think about. And here's the key. is that a lot of us have a database, but we're not consistently adding people to our database. And here's the reality. Write this note down because this is important. Your entire database is shrinking by 10% a year. So if last year you had 500 people in your database, how many will you have at the end of this year if you do nothing? It'll be 450. You'll lose 50 people through attrition. Either they'll enter someone else's sphere of influence, they could die, they could move away. There's a lot of reasons why people leave your database. So if you're not growing your database, you're going to be shrinking. And that's why some top agents go on a glide path, and they were doing well for a long time, but then slowly their business erodes until they're not producing at the level they used to because they haven't been growing their database. So we have to be super conscious of this, growing our database constantly, adding people, being really hypersensitive to this thought process. So we're going to take just a second, and we're going to talk about, and I'm going to have you work with the person sitting next to you, the lifetime value of a client. What do you think is the lifetime value of someone in your database that knows, likes, and trusts you? And then I'm going to give you the
96,000.
96,000? Anybody have any other answers?
We said between 70,000.
100,000? 200,000? 200,000? The answer, according to Inman News, this is across the country, and taking all markets into consideration, is $88,000. So you guys were very close, actually. Our markets, remember, West Coast market's a much higher market than most of the whole South and a lot of areas of the country. So when I ran the numbers using their formula, it came to about $100,000. So when you think about that, I want you to put that in perspective for you. Every single person you add to your database that you work correctly, if I suddenly said to you now I just mentioned to you the fact that we should be adding people to your database, and you're like, I've heard all that before, Jim. Right, whatever, okay. What's lunch today? But when I say it to you and you say every person you add to your database has a potential of making you $100,000 over the lifetime of your career, does that change your attitude about that person?
We don't care about lunch now.
We don't care about lunch? Suddenly, that becomes much more valuable if you begin to look at your business in that perspective. And those aren't fake numbers. This is Inman taking a hard study, a hard look at this. And so, but this requires complete immersion. If you are going to say, I'm going to immerse myself in this process and I'm going to master my database, what does that mean? It means you have to understand what the top producers are doing around the country. You have to understand CRM. You have to commit to a schedule. You have to commit to scripting and learning the language and mailings and emailings and drip systems. It's not like you can just phone it in with this stuff. If you want to make $100,000 per client, you've got to do the work, which is what we're starting to do now. This is the very beginning stages of that, right? So it's rethinking how you're running your business. Because most of us run it very inefficiently, but we can change, and we can change starting today. So let's look at step 2, or the second thing in your little package there, how to sort and organize your real estate database to begin generating daily referrals. So a lot of you need this step right here. It seems very simple, but a lot of you have not done this. So this is mastering the mundane. This is getting on the trail and starting to work it, right? So number 1, step 1, assemble your list and pick your CRM. So we talked about assembling your list. That's printing everything out from all these different sources, centralizing your data, and then you got to pick a CRM platform. How many people have picked a CRM platform? Okay, let's talk about what we're using. Dave, what are you using?
Referral maker.
Okay.
HubSpot.
HubSpot. Okay.
Top producer and contextually.
Top producer and contextually.
John L. Scott.
John L. Scott, love it. Yes. Top producer. Who else? Top producer. Any others? Referral maker. Referral maker. Referral maker. Okay, so I gave you a list of 9 CRM platforms in this list that come from Realtor.com. They don't come from me. Find one that you're going to use and dive in and learn it and master it and just make it your own. Step 2. So that's actually just, I would say if you haven't done that, next 7 days, pick one and use it. Don't get all caught up in getting the right exact one. Step 2 is to call everyone and categorize everyone in your database. Okay. American Express, several years ago, they were starting to lose market share. They were losing market share to who? Visa and MasterCard, as you'd expect. So what did American Express do? They took their entire database of all the clients that they were using and they broke them into loyalty groups. And they said, well, these people like golf. And just looking at their credit card statements, they could see these people like golf. These people like Las Vegas. These people like to travel. These people like whatever. And they broke their entire thousands of people into databases based on loyalty groups, and then they assign someone to create things around what they like to do, around what was interesting to them. What do you think happened to their loyalty? It shot straight up, and people started coming back to Amex because they were getting this special treatment. They were getting specialty information. They were getting specialty services based on what was interesting to them. So for us, we can do the same thing when we're looking at our database, but we have to start by making some contact and building relationships, understanding our clients. So we could have what's called buckets within our database. What are buckets? Buckets are groups of people that are interested in specific things, or they're at a certain season of their life. For instance, you have a whole list here: potential buyers and sellers, potential relocation clients, internet leads, open house leads. Maybe they're members of organizations, current buyers, current sellers, investors, builders, and yes, they will move from bucket to bucket to bucket to bucket, and that will happen over time. But you would never know they're moving from bucket to bucket unless what? You're talking to them, and you're involved, and you're watching what's happening with their lives, right? So what we're going to do, as you've all heard before, this is Captain Obvious here, you got to break them into starting point is A, B, and C. What's A, B, and C? People that are A clients are people that are advocates, people that refer to you and send you referrals. So that's the people that actively refer to you. So that's one bucket in addition to the others, people that refer to you, okay? And we're going to talk about your A ratio in just a second, which is super important. Then we have B clients. B clients are people that have done business with you. So I bought a house from Kathy, had a great experience, but I haven't referred Kathy. So that's a B client, okay? Or sold. A C client is an acquaintance. They haven't bought or sold, but you just know them. You're friendly. You know, they know I can trust you. They haven't bought. They haven't referred to you. So what do you think we're trying to do here? I want you to think about your database as a ladder. The ladder starts with what rung? The C. And then we're trying to push people to B and A. Love to have them switch right up to A. That's the best thing in the world. In fact, the most valuable client isn't somebody that's doing direct business with you, it's somebody that's referring you often. If they do business with me, that's great. I should be a given that they do business with me. But really what I'm looking for, what the golden goose here is, I want them to start referring me, and I want to try to get them to a place where they're referring me business, right? So the first step is calling people. And if you haven't called your database, you're going to have an opportunity right now. So next 90 days, here's your goal, is to call everyone in your database. Next 90 days, call everyone in your database. That'll be easy when you have 17. A little harder when you have, 343, I think, or something like that, 343. So, but if you break it up into daily action, decide how many people you got to contact every day, I can tell you this will have the rapid transformation in your business. You're going to be suddenly surging with business just by this alone. If you didn't do anything else in the class, this alone will surge your business. So what are you going to say? Here's 2 quick scripts. Doesn't have to be complicated. Good morning, this is Jim Remley. If you haven't called your database in a long time, you just use the apology script. Straight from Buffini, the apology script. I have to apologize. It's been a while since we talked. Just want to reach out and touch base. How are you guys doing? Does that say anything about real estate, first of all? Not a word about real estate. I'm just reconnecting. I don't need to start talking about real estate if I haven't reconnected. Because if I launch into real estate, that would be an awkward call, right? I want to avoid awkwardness. I want to avoid being the salesy, swarmy kind of person that's contacting them. I just want to reconnect. The connection will lead to referrals. Write that down. Connection leads to referrals, but if I haven't connected, it'll never lead to anything. So the first step is connection. Second one, good morning. This is Jim Remley. I was in your area, and here's where having that database sorted will help you. Showing a home, doing an open house, listing a home. I realize it's been a while since we connected. How are you guys doing? Super simple. It's either the apology script or I'm in your area. How are you guys doing? And then right after I make that call, what am I going to do? I'm going to send a thank you card, and we made it easy. So you can use the thank you cards that we're providing, or you can do your own. Just a quick thank you card, and it can be as simple as, hey, it was great talking today, insert relevant conversation that you just had. Have an amazing week. Let's connect again soon. Or, hey, thank you for taking the time to talk today. Great hearing about whatever. I'll send the information I promised. If you said you're going to send them something, you're going to send it over to them. Super simple. Now, the next step is the next step, which means what? Every time I'm talking to somebody, here's the big mistake that agents make. Every time I'm talking to somebody, I'm looking for a reason to do what? Talk to them again. I'm always, and this is a game-changing concept that you have to embrace. Every time I'm talking to somebody, I'm thinking about the next conversation I'm going to have with them. And this is where most agents fail. They make the initial call, but then they forget, I got to actually follow up and do more calls with them later or more contact with them. It doesn't have to be a call. It could be a text, could be an email, could be a mailing. So you get, yeah, machine. So flag every phone call, every interaction in your database as when am I going to contact them next, and what is going to be the context of that conversation. So write this down. What's going to be the next call and what's going to be the context of that next conversation. Because as I'm talking to someone, if I'm talking to Kate and she brings up she's going to Hawaii, the context of my next call with her is going to be what? How's your trip to Hawaii? If I don't make that note in my database right now, the next call is just going to be me reconnecting. And it won't be as powerful or as relevant to her because it's just connection, right? But if I'm connecting based on what's interesting to her, it's going to be far more powerful. So I've got to start making notes in my database, which means in an ideal world, you have your laptop open when you're making your calls and you're making notes after each call. In an ideal world. Sometimes if you're out in the field and you're making calls, you're just handwriting the notes and you're transferring them back when you get back to the office. To step four. Step 4 is establish contact circuits. So what's a contact circuit? Not everyone's created equally with your database. A clients, people that are sending you referrals, are going to get a lot more attention than C clients that are not sending you referrals. They're all going to get contacts, but over the course of a year, of course, you're going to spend more time with your A clients. So let's look at a sample contact matrix. Now I'm going to challenge all of you right now, in the next 7 days, take this contact matrix and get out your schedule, your electronic schedule, and start plugging in something similar to this, because we don't do what we don't schedule. So if I'm going to start living this, I have to start scheduling it in my day or it will never get done. It will never get done if I don't schedule it. So here's an example. You don't have to live this exactly, but this is an example. So we're going to start at the bottom on events. So one thing we're going to talk about during the class as we go is doing a client appreciation event. If you've never done a client appreciation event, we're going to strongly encourage you before the end of this 4 weeks to schedule a client appreciation event. So that would be once a year. See that? Once a year with your A clients. Super simple. Now, if you don't have enough A clients, maybe you'd open up to B clients as well. But at least with your A clients, you do that once a year. Bulk email. Look, everybody gets bulk email because it's free and it's easy. 12 times. What's bulk mail? That's postcards that are being sent or letters to your entire database. And you'll notice that they're all the same there. 4 times a year, once a quarter. A piece of mail is going to arrive in their mailbox. Could be more, but that's the minimum. Once a quarter, 4 times a year. By the way, what's the best kind of mail to send?
Handwritten. Just listed.
Well, that's we're going to get to handwritten, not yet.
Just sold, just listed.
Just listed, just sold. To show people you're an active realtor, show them that you're active in the market. So a great example is Renee Spahn. Renee sends out a postcard, has several of her listed, sold, pended, and it shows that she's super active. So that means that they have permission to send you a referral. If you're a newer agent or you haven't been doing as much business, people are going to have a little bit of referral resistance to sending you referrals because they're not quite sure how you're going to do with it. They're not quite sure if they feel they want to trust you with it. No, I'm not looking. I'm not pointing at you, Judy. But we need to give them some proof that we're actually successful. And the way you do that is showing off your success. Success builds on success, by the way. That's a feedback loop. We'll talk about that later. Personal mail. Now, personal mail is what we were talking about there. Thank you cards, those kinds of years. So you're going to notice A members get that 4 times a year. B members might get that 4 times a year. C members once a year. Personal text, private messages. You can see the lay there. 4 times a year for A's. B members 2 times a year. C members once a year. Personal emails. Those are handwritten emails specific to the client or specific to the loyalty group, the bucket. Does that make sense? So if I got a bunch of golfers, to give you an example, I could send an email to all the golfers, and that would feel more personalized because they are in the same bucket, if that makes sense. B members twice a year and C members once a year. Personal visits. We can't personally visit every single person in our database as it grows, but we certainly can visit our A members, and we're going to give you lots of ideas for that over the course of the class. B members once a year. C members, depends. Phone calls, of course, 4 times a year with A members, twice a year with B members. C members get a once a year call. That's your schedule. That's what you should be living by right there. There's your matrix to live by. And hopefully that helps. Let's move on. I know our time. So let's skip over to the A ratio just for a second. I'm just going to touch on the A ratio for a second. This is how you measure the health of your database. So all of you that are a little bit more experienced can instantly, right now as we're sitting here talking, you can measure the health of your database, and we're going to do a little exercise to do that. So I asked you all to print out your last 18 months of transactions. I hope a lot of you did that, okay? If you printed out your last 18 months transactions, get that out now. Okay, so if you did that, get that out. If you didn't, that's okay. If you haven't closed any, that's okay too. So for those of you that have done that, please get that out. If you didn't do it, you can just try to remember. Anybody want to share their numbers? Paul.
13 buyers, 5 sellers, all referral.
All referral, okay. 100%. Anybody else want to share their numbers? Wallace?
90% referral.
90% referrals. Anybody else want to share their numbers? Anybody over here? Yes, Chrissy Mack.
I'm 63% referral, 26% open house.
Wow. She's an open house queen, though. Animal. Okay, anybody else want to share? In the back? Trev? No?
I don't have
Okay, that's all right. Michelle?
I'm about 85% either referral or past clients.
That's a referral. That's great. Russ, what do you got?
about 90%.
About 90%. So just take that in and soak that in for a second. Sounds like 8 to 9 out of 10 clients in this room are referrals. You know, and we got to think about that when we talk about investing marketing dollars, right? Investing marketing dollars. If I'm spending $1,000, where am I going to spend it? So people ask me that all the time. They're like, Jim, I got an extra $1,000. Where do I spend it? And the natural tendency, by the way, is to always spend it where? Online leads. Let's go invest that with Zillow, right? Why? We should take that and take $900 of that and invest it back into our what? Sphere of influence. Systems, mailings, marketing. Take $100 and put it in Zillow if you want to, because that's the ratio. 90% is coming from our sphere, right? We got to rethink that process and rethink what we're doing. Up to spending $40,000 a month with Zillow, and he got to $1 million in GCI, how much he had made, right, come into his team. But what did he net? His net fell below the 343. He actually netted less. Why did he net less? Because of the cost of grinding through 100 leads to get to 3 closed deals. His net was less. He had to hire all these buyer's agents and assistants and systems and everything else that went behind that. And you got to think about, how do I make the most net dollars to my business, right? It's not about the gross, it's about the what. We forget about this in real estate. It's about the net. It's always about the net. So that's one just real good quick lesson about that is you don't want to become an employee of Zillow. That is a path to expense. Zillow is a path to expense. Referrals are a path to profit. Just keep that in mind. Let's go on to the A ratio. So for those of you that want to figure out what your A ratio is and what this means, you take the total number of A sphere members that you have. So if you have 10, that's what you'd write in there. 10, 15, 6, 3, 2, 1, whatever your number is, the A sphere members, and divide it by the total number of sphere. Remember, an A sphere member, somebody sent you a referral in the last 12 months. Divided by your total sphere group. So I gave you an example here. If you had 16 A members for this agent here, and their total number was 232, their A ratio, the ratio of A's to the rest of their database, is 6.8%. That is something you should start measuring. It's like the RPM in your car, it's the miles per hour in your car. It'll measure your performance and how fast you're going to do, how much income you're going to generate. And what should the number be? For a newer agent or somebody that's just ramping up in this, it should be 10%. 10% of your database should be an A client. So if you have 200 people in your database, how many A's should you have? 20 minimum. That's your minimum. So if you're at 10 now, your database will underperform. It will underperform. You will not be revved up to where you could be. Does that make sense? And why do you have less than the 10%? Remember, there's only one reason why you have less than the 10%. It's because everyone starts probably at a C, right? And you've got to get them to climb the ladder to B and climb the ladder to A. And how does that happen? It happens through contact. It happens through relationship. It happens through being intentional about what you're doing. Does that make sense? So we can make those numbers change, but it has to be a conscious decision. We have to be completely immersed in it. So I would challenge you to figure out your A ratio and set a goal. Now, if you read through this, a lot of top producers get way higher than that. That's a starting point. 10% is the starting point. A lot of top producers get to 25%, 50% A ratio. Not unheard of, but it's all conscious decision making. We're going to end on the last form that I gave you is permission-based scripts to add 22 transactions a year to your bottom line. I bet there's a lot of you here that would like 22 more transactions. Yes? Yes, probably everyone here. How do you get there? It's not as hard as you think. So in every working year, there's 220 working days. If I add one person a day, only one, to my sphere of influence, that's 220 people I've added to my sphere of influence over the course of one working year. The accepted ratio, this is Buffini's ratio, this is NAR's ratio, this is not my ratio, is for every 10 people in your database, you'll average one closed sale. Ninja teaches it this way. Ninja says for every person in your database, you average $1,000 in GCI. That's the way they teach it. But here's the trick behind that. If you crunch those numbers down, they both equal about the same number, right? Every 10 in your database, one closed sale. Or you could say, every person I add is an extra $1,000. That's another way to look at it, by the way. Every day I'm adding somebody, I've made $1,000. Isn't that amazing when you look at it that way? You suddenly get hyper-conscious, hyper-focused, hypersensitive to the power of adding people to your database. But that, of course, requires that you're working people. Now, how many people last week here talked to somebody new that's not in their database? All of us, right? Every one of us talked to someone new that today is not in our database. And how much money did we lose last week based on that? If I talked to 5 people I could have added to my database, that's $5,000 by Ninja standards, right? That's an interesting way to look at our life, right? Our business life. So how can we start adding more people? Here's some scripting, super simple scripting we can all start using. And I hope it rolls off the tongue, but the only way it's going to start to roll off the tongue is how? Using it. It's called muscle memory. We got to use some muscle memory. And in sales, language matters. We have to learn the language of sales, and this is the language of sales. Let's look at the market update. Market update is super simple. As I'm talking to somebody, an open house attendee, somebody calls on one of your listings, some connection somehow, you can say this, hey, would you mind if I added you to my market update? I send a report by, pick your method, email, text, video, email, regular mail. A few quick bullet points. I send out about the real estate market every month to my favorite people. Can I add you to the list? What are most people going to say to that? Sure. As soon as they sure, I've captured them. I've captured their information. And now, based on the market numbers, not my numbers, you've just made $1,000. If you start to work them correctly in your database. Wow, that's powerful. You start to think about that. Just got to reach out and start grabbing people that you're not grabbing now. Let's go to the next one. Neighborhood update. Would it be okay? Hey, would it be okay if I sent over a neighborhood market report to you by email? It's a fun little report that gives you the scoop on everything that happened in real estate in the previous month in your neighborhood. Who's going to say no to that? Almost no one. By the way, what do we call that at John L. Scott? Branded to you with your photo on it. It's an easy thing to use. I like the next one, the Facebook business page. Hey, I have a real estate Facebook business page, provides updates on the local real estate market, some DIY ideas to improve your home's value, links to some of the hottest new listings in the market. Do you mind if I connect with you on Facebook? That's a great question to start asking people. Do you mind if I connect with you on Facebook? What are people going to say? Of course, sure, great, super, I'll do that. If you have a blog or a vlog, you can do the same thing. Go to the last one on that page, though, the text update. I love this concept because I think most people would be really open to it. I would be if somebody approached me with it. So it's just this. Would it be okay if I add you to my micro real estate market update? My micro real estate market update, it's 3 bullet points I send monthly about the real estate market via text. Via text. Remember, 95% of text messages are read within 5 minutes and responded to. So we compare that with an email. With an email, okay? What's the open rate of an email? The best emails written by the best people in the world, the open rate's about 30%. Like super well written, high content, high value emails are opened about 30%. Whereas that text penetration is so much higher if you can get people to sign on to it. So think about it. What if everybody in your system was signed up to a mass text update from you once a month? Where would you pull those numbers from, by the way? Pull them from the Real Value Report, which is created by SOMLS every month about this time of the month. It's coming up, I think, around the 10th, where you can pull that information. Super simple. And people like social currency. That's the pro tip. Social currency is just the fact that when you give people a piece of information they can share with their friends, they love it. They want to be the expert in the room. So there you go. There's some ideas for the week. I'm going to give you some assignments now. Your weekly assignment. Here you go. Call 5 people a day in your sphere of influence. And here's who you're going to start with. You're going to start with your A group, of course. You're going to start with your A group. Then you're going to move down to the clients, and you've already printed this, so you should already have this, the clients that you've closed in the last 18 months. By the way, those clients that you closed in the last 18 months should, of course, be what? In your sphere of influence, right? They should be there. So call those people that you've closed in the last 18 months. Calendar your leads. What that means is that as you're making the calls, you're going to calendar the next call. You're going to flag that next contact, right? You're going to be adding contacts to your new database CRM. So you're going to pick a CRM. You're going to say, this is the one I'm going to use. Then you're just going to figure out how you add someone to it. And they're going to start adding people to it. Remember, everyone you add is $1,000. Everyone you add is $1,000. Take notes about the conversation. Flag that next point of contact with everyone new. Ask permission when necessary, of course. Start sending thank you cards. You're going to have a lot of conversations this week. Just send 5 thank you cards. After every conversation, send 1. As you're making contact with people, set a goal of having 2 networking meetings. What's a networking meeting? Just breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks with someone. 2 of those a week. If you really want to ramp up, you could do 3, but do at least 2. And how am I going to generate those? While I'm calling 5 people a day, it's going to be so easy to set up a lunch or a coffee or dinner or drinks with someone. Super easy. And here's the last one. And this last one, one of our students last time when they were taking this actually had a great success with this. I think it was Audra, signed up for an event. A non-realtor event, just went to an event with 50 people or more in the room and just started talking to a few people and made some connections. I think she took a listing as a direct result that first week. And that's something we should be thinking about, is making connections through events. We're going to have a whole conversation about that in the next couple of weeks. But register for an event to meet people. So that's your weekly assignment. Don't forget, you've got your daily dashboard that needs to be turned in to me Friday. So you're going to say to yourself, well, Jim, I don't have a full week this week. I get it. Don't stress about it. Just do part of the week this week and send me what you got on Friday, okay? And last thing is, before you leave, I want you to pick a peer partner. The peer partner is somebody that you're going to work with, you're going to encourage, you're going to inspire, you're going to text, you're going to email, just to encourage each other through this process, okay? So pick your partner. Okay. Have a great day. Have a great week. Go shake the money tree.